On today's show, what are the Dallas Mavericks now? Like, what are they? With Anthony Davis, Max Christie in the fold now, what are the Dallas Mavericks? We'll answer it on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm here because I have to be here.
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our free Locked On Mavs newsletter. Check the link in the description or the QR code for different ways to follow the show like that. Today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5. And if you win, you get $200 in bonus bets. Download the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me, as always, my co-host, media member, and the move on oligarch. The one more thinking, what you got for me, Isaac Harris?
All right, we're going to say it right off the top.
Yep.
We're not going to talk about Luka Doncic this episode.
We won't talk about Luka.
We're going to cover all this stuff. We have one more thing that's going to be coming out about the McMahon article. Who would have predicted a McMahon article would have came out after this?
You, literally, in a text to me when I was trying to plan the show today, and you were like, let's wait, the McMahon article is coming.
Yeah. I knew that was happening soon. But no, we had an overwhelming response of people like, hey, we want to. There are a lot of Mavs fans who want to hear what's this team look like right now. We got Anthony Davis, we have Max Christie, young guy. What does this team look like right now, moving forward? And guys, the trade deadline is Thursday. Oof. And the Mavs are still sniffing around on some things.
And so today, this episode is a non-Luka episode where we'll talk about what the Mavs are now. What do we make of this team? Where do they look next as a trade target and all that, and what Anthony Davis and Max Christie bring? We'll do one more thing, a bonus episode talking about that McMahon article that we talked about. So if you want to hear more about that, we'll definitely do an episode later today. We also have the squad show coming out later today, in which I got in front of all the other hosts from the Western Conference, all the other Locked On hosts, and they just called the Mavs idiots for the whole time. We talked about some good things too in there. So that's the slate for today. But let's start here, Isaac Harris. The Mavs posted a video of Anthony Davis and Max Christie on the Mavs private jet coming back and excited to come to Dallas, say, hey, we're going to do something special. We're going to win a lot of games. And they seem excited to come back. Stein was talking on our friend's show, the DLLS show, about how Anthony Davis turned down his trade kicker to make it easier for the Mavericks to trade him there, that he is excited about coming to the Mavericks, that he is excited to prove himself. The Lakers also moved on from him, and they decided that he wasn't worth it anymore too, and so he's going to be motivated to come back. And let's just start with Anthony Davis. There's been so much talk about Luka that for the Mavericks, it's hard to forget. It's easy to forget that Anthony Davis is a really dang good player and an all-star starter.
He's a monster. He's 31. He has he's won a title if you count the bubble.
I do.
Now both, I don't want to do the okay. I was say your two best players on the team have won a title before. 5-time All NBA guy, 5-time All Defense. Guys, the last full game he played for the Lakers last week was against Charlotte. He leaves the game after that with the abdominal injury, and so he only played 10 minutes in that game. The game before that, he put up 42 points and 23 rebounds.
Is that good?
He is a beast, and he's really good. The Mavericks went from having a top 3 player in the world to having a top 10 or 15 player in the world in Anthony Davis. He now, it changes the whole makeup of your roster. I mean, you kind of just got to throw so much stuff out the window now.
Yeah.
Of who fits around Luka and this heliocentric offense. Now we're gonna have a guy that's gonna go work on the post and the elbow.
A little.
And but we're not doing Anthony Davis, step back threes for 12 threes a game, some games, stuff like that. So I want to say this, I kind of do feel for him because, when is the last time that a top 10 to 15 player in his prime gets traded to a team and the fan base is pissed? and you're not welcomed. I mean, he's going to be welcomed by Mavs fans, but like his first home game is the game that, I mean, there could be like Fire Nico chants and like all the different stuff that it could, be on Saturday.
I've heard tell of a protest happening in front of the AZ before the game.
But he's really dang good, and he's going to be good for the Mavericks. And I'm excited to watch him play in a Mavs jersey.
Yeah, just look at his like counting stats this season. Almost 26 points a game, 12 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 2 blocks, and almost a steal and a half a game. Nobody has those numbers this season, and the only players with 20, 10, and 2 blocks are AD and Victor Wembanyama. Like, we're talking about a very specific, like, unique player in the NBA. And yes, I mean, it doesn't. We're going to talk about these. We're going to talk about these guys and what they bring and how good Anthony Davis is. It doesn't offset the fact that the Mavs traded Luka Doncic at all. That's not the point we're trying to make today. No. We're saying, all right, what are the Mavs and what do they have now? They have a really great player. And what does he do well? He defends everywhere. If you watch the crossover I did with the Kamenetskis from Locked On Lakers, they talked about how he can switch, he defends the rim, and what he really likes to do is to be the free safety where you have a center, a Gafford, a Lively type player, maybe one of those. And Anthony Davis can just roam around and cause havoc anywhere because he can do anything defensively. You can literally plug him into any spot. And I think that is something that's just going to completely change the whole, like you said, the makeup of the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs are now a defense-first team. And they tried to make that at the end of last year. Going into the finals, they tried to be a defense-first team, and then their offenses scored just enough points to win. They have become that even more now after this trade, where Anthony Davis, and we'll talk about Max Christie, bring a lot on the defensive end, and they'll score. And Anthony Davis, 26 points a game. That's like it's 11th in the NBA. That's not something to scoff at, right? But it's not the elite. It's not going to be the elite offense we're used to seeing with Luka. With Luka, the Mavs averaged 122 points per 100 possessions when he was on the floor. They're not going to see that offense anymore. But we are going to see elite defense where you try to score against Lively, AD, and PJ Washington. That's going to be difficult. And one thing that I want to say is this show has always said, we always have been very firm about this, that all rebounds matter. No one on this show has ever said that rebounds don't matter, ever.
On a serious note, though.
No, Isaac did say that one time, and it became a real good running joke that he said rebounds don't matter. Because in 2022, they really didn't for the Mavericks. That team is completely different from the team the Mavericks have now, where they're huge, 12 rebounds a game, 7th in the NBA in rebounding. So all of a sudden now you have a center in Gafford and Lively. You have Anthony Davis, and PJ Washington has been rebounding the heck out of the ball since Luka has been out. And he's been thrust into this position, playing more and all that. And think about those 3 guys rebounding together. It's going to be the Mavs. Nobody's going to get a rebound against the Mavs.
It was all about the makeup of the team and the DNA of the team.
Been defending this for 4 years.
I know. I'm not even going. But I'm glad you kind of explained it for me. This Mavericks team, the way they're building it now, like you got to rebound the ball. Like this is one of the the pros. Like your offensive boards and second chance points is going to win you basketball games. And when you put out a front line, and you're not going to be like AD is not going to hit them the same amount of threes as Luka Doncic. All right, so like your defense is going to carry you some games and win you some basketball games. And now more than ever, you're going to have to win these rebounding battles.
The Mavericks kind of went from the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, where they had the guy Patrick Mahomes, and they play some good defense, and then they just make some kind of magic with Patrick Mahomes because they can just rely on that. Yeah. To now they're the Eagles, where up front and in the trenches they're going to be incredible, and the offense is going to be a little bit difficult to figure out. All right, where do our points come from? How do we figure that out? And that's something they'll have to figure out. But man, they're going to be an elite defense with these guys.
They are, and that's it might.
And we should mention that Frank Vogel ran the defense that Anthony Davis ran when they won the title, and he's been hanging out with the Mavericks for a while here.
I was going to say, yeah, I don't think you're done seeing Frank around the team. It might not be as sexy and as entertaining as the Luka step back threes. And
the eye of the beholder. If you love defense, it's going to be sexy.
I love defense.
Holding teams to 80 points is not sexy anymore.
I've watched the Ravens my whole life and
right.
the AFC North, and I love defensive matchups. But I'm just saying, like, you might not get you're not going to get the Luka magic and the step back threes and all this stuff. The defense and all of that stuff might not be as sexy, to it's gonna be weird wording, but it's like it's just it's as much as you can say it. They have a top 10, top 15 player in Anthony Davis. He's amazing. He's one of the best players in the league. But the whole DNA of the Mavs changed now as far as their playing style and structure and all of that. And it's still going to be fun to watch.
That's what we're looking at. So what does Anthony Davis do well? What does Max Christie do well? And what question does Max Christie solve for the Mavericks? I've got one. We'll talk about that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Hilariously, today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by BetterHelp. In your relationships, what are some green flags? What are some things you look at and say, oh, if I see somebody with, a clean room, or if I see somebody that holds the door open for people or doesn't talk during movies, that's a green flag. We always hear about the red flags. What's a green flag you look for in somebody? Maybe elite defense and rebounding is something that is a green flag for you in a basketball team. So think about those in your life. If you're not sure what to look for, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and even embody green flag energy yourself. I would love to embody green flag energy. Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries, improve your communication skills. It empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationship. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down and make you betray the ones that you love. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering therapy online with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And when you switch therapists, you don't have any extra cost. That's awesome. Discover the relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
We're going to be using that drop a lot. I should be using it a lot more.
Nico telling me to explain myself.
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
The sorry from you is so
Should be the other way.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners. If you're still part of the Raccoon Squad, love you, because I have gotten so many goodbye for now. Like, goodbye. It was nice to know you messages. I get them I feel like I'm getting one every 10 minutes right now on YouTube comments or Twitter DMs or Instagram or wherever else. At Nick Van Exit everywhere. What does Anthony Davis bring to the Dallas Mavericks? We talked about his defense. On offense, you mentioned, he scored the 11th most points in the NBA, 26 points a game. That's nothing to scoff at. He scores. I'm curious now, the thing that he does the most is 18% of his possessions, he's the roll man, and he's very good according to Synergies, and the 74th percentile as a roll man. This is something that's going to be different for the Mavericks. We're used to the Mavericks just, all right, whatever rollers you can get, Luka's going to find you, and it's just going to be magic. A little different now. Where do you see AD as a roller fitting in with the Dallas Mavericks now?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that because it seems like, well, for a while now, AD's wanted to play the 4, and he vocally expressed that a few weeks ago, with the Lakers and stuff. So now he comes to Dallas and he gets to do that. He gets to do it right now with Daniel Gafford. He gets to do it when Dereck Lively comes back from the foot injury and stuff. So it looks like he's going to be playing the 4. He's probably going to close some games at the 5 sometimes, depending on the matchup and all of that. And that's what's kind of hard for it at times, because he's really good playing the 5, but he really wants to play the 4. So how do the Mavs ride that balance? I mean, of course, Nico has a relationship with him.
Explain yourself.
Sorry. So yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I think we're definitely going to see him as a roller at times, but I think that you're going to see him a little bit different than that too. I think you're going to see him. This is where everything is thrown out. What's the offense going to look like? Are they going to have those defined roles like they've always had? Because you kind of got to adjust it a little bit. If AD is going to be rolling and you have Gafford or Lively in the short corner there, and they're waiting for the dump off from AD. You make AD the role guy who's making the decision there at the free throw line, hitting the shooter, hitting the guy in the short corner, or making a play himself. Either way, you want the ball in AD's hands to make a decision, and they're gonna get him the ball to do that. So, yeah,
the Mavs offense is gonna be worse, but it's gonna be less predictable in a way, right? They're gonna have to do some more stuff. They're gonna have to do different things. You've got different options now, and you've got players that, the Mavericks have been adding more versatile players year after year. PJ Washington has been showing he can be more versatile. Obviously, Kyrie can do a whole lot of things. Gafford, a little more versatile as a scorer than like a Dwight Powell was a couple years ago when he was starting for the Mavericks. The other thing you mentioned, he likes to play the 4, but his best position is probably at the 5. The Mavs lose Maxi Kleber. They were going to be without him because of the foot injury. A lot of Mavs fans have been frustrated, and you listening is probably frustrated with Maxi Kleber at some point this year. Anthony Davis completely negates your need for a Maxi Kleber type player because he is that, right? He's like the greatest version of that there could be.
He's like Charizard.
Yeah, like where Maxi is, I don't know, is there a baby version of Charmander? I don't think there is, but he can come in and he can play that 5 when you want to go to a quote unquote small ball lineup and still make you excellent. And so when the Mavs decide to do that, they would normally be putting Maxi out there at the 5. Now they're going to put Anthony freaking Davis out at the 5. Yeah. And so that's something that's completely different that is better for the Mavericks.
And now you get a guy when you are running that pick and roll game that you're probably going to see at the end of the games, AD, Kyrie, pick and roll.
Yeah.
So, a lot of fun. Now what he gives you, there's a lot of things he gives you different than Gafford and Lively, but you get a pick and pop option now too. So now when AD comes to, set that screen, there's so many different options of he can slip the screen. He can, he can all the different stuff. He can pop, he can roll, so it's just the opportunities are endless with him in that. It's just not, it's just going to look different. It's not going to be as good. The offense, let's wait till Thursday, but it's like,
the trade deadline.
It's just gonna look different. Yeah.
Trade deadline. Are you saying that
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table?
That drop is way less funny than it was like 2 weeks ago.
What's the other Nico drops?
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table. Explain yourself.
Sorry. People forget about that.
Max Christie is not getting talked about at all. And he's 21. He was a starter for the Lakers, which is a big
people sleeping on it.
A big deal. They are. They really is a rising star in the NBA. He's going to come in, and the Mavs have been looking for a point of attack defender, and I think they got one in Max Christie.
No, I joke about people sleeping on it. They really are. I was joking because I shot a tweet out at probably a bad time, but it was sarcastic and fun. But you said that people were sleeping on Max Christie and people got really mad at you. Really, really, really mad. Really mad. One of the things when you trade for somebody, if the opposing team or opposing fan base is mad that they gave up that guy, of course the Lakers are more than thrilled to get Luka, and it's worth giving up freaking Max Christie for Luka. But a lot of Mavs people are like, man, low-key wish they put Connect in that deal instead of Max Christie, or I wish we could have kept Max in this deal. And it's like, all right, sweet. That's a little win there. But yeah, versatile defender. I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched every single minute of Max Christie in his whole career. But I do remember that he was a super highly ranked high school player, chose to go to Michigan State to play with Tom Izzo. And, he plays that year at Michigan State, comes in the league. He's, 6'8", he has 6'7", he has all the size.
Yeah.
And he just gives you that versatile defense. Like you said, the point of attack guy. He has, and the thing with the shooting in college, he was really inconsistent with the shot. And it feels like he's honed in on that shot in the NBA so far, especially this recent stretch where, Lakers just recently, correct me if I'm wrong here, they just recently put him in the starting lineup, and he's been shooting mid 40% from three while he's been in that role and all the stuff. So he's definitely going to be in the rotation. I just, I'll be curious to see what spot. Is it the Grimes spot if they trade Grimes? But does he make Grimes expendable before Thursday? That's the type of stuff. But it's exciting to have a 22-year-old that's actually going to be in the rotation, unlike Max.
Oh, that hurt me. That hurt me just a little
I love that somebody wrote me today and it's like, so what about Omax's role? I could see him
bag.
Bless your soul that over in the middle of all of this, you thought about Omax's role. I'm like, I love you, whoever you are.
Just you, Isaac, Omax's family, the only people thinking about, maybe Jason Kidd thinking about that.
I was like, no, this Luka trade's not. What's Omax? How does this affect Omax?
How does this affect Omax? Yeah, I think I believe in Max Christie to come in. As the way the Kamenetskis were talking about him in our crossover that we did, I think he can come in and be a really good point of attack defender. I had him on my list. I went through a list a couple weeks ago of, all right, let's go through all the point of attack defenders in the NBA. And are there any that the Mavericks could snag and get that could become better on the Mavericks than they are right now? Who could be the next, like Derrick Jones Jr., that all of a sudden jumps out and is that player? Or a Dyson Daniels that goes from a good defender to like an elite defender, just in a different scenario. And Max Christie was one of the guys that I named in that episode because I think that he could be that type of guy. So I'm very fascinated to see how he looks. And then also with that back line defense of Anthony Davis plus a center, because Anthony Davis wanted to play with a center, that I think is just going to shore up so much, which is why I'm very high on this Mavericks defense, because there's just not a lot of holes. Like there's not a lot of places to attack. It's Kyrie, but then you have Anthony Davis as a help defender. Oh, if you're gonna hunt Kyrie over and over again, you got AD as a help defender back there.
Yeah, and this is why I'm really curious on how much it obviously this was about Luka and AD, but I wonder how much Max Christie was like worth in like if it was Christie versus Austin Reeves and the Lakers are like, oh, you can have Reeves, and Mavs like, no, we're taking Christie. Or if it was like another first round pick or Max Christie, and it's like, no, we want Max Christie. Like Max Christie has to be in the deal type of thing. Doesn't mean that he's going to be like his jersey's going to be in the rafters, but I just wonder how high, if he was kind of like a sort of like, hey, we're interested. He we want him part of the deal, or hey, he has to be in the deal. Like we're really high on him.
I thought about that with Maxi Kleba as well. Like, did the Mavericks have to? All right, well, give us the other first. Well, what if we give us another second or something? We'll take. What if you take Maxi's contract off our hands, because now they don't have that contract anymore, which makes trades a little bit more difficult, but may make them easier because now the Mavs are trading players with value somewhere else. And so coming up, let's talk about where the Mavericks look now. What are their new trade targets? Because this team, like we just went over, is completely different. Who are they looking for in trades? We'll tell you today's Locked On Mavs.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. Caught Isaac drinking right in the middle. There's all kinds of things you can do. There's a tab, a Mavs Lakers tab on FanDuel right now. I can't believe I just clicked on that. The first Mavs Lakers game, February 25th. Who do you think is the favorite in that game? Guess the line. Lakers home game.
Mavs by 2.
Lakers by 4. It's Vegas and it's Lakers.
Bull crap.
You do get a Lakers bump. So that's definitely something to watch. So if you feel real strongly about that,
when LeBron and Luka is playing defense in the paint.
If you feel we get to go after Luka now for defense.
Sorry.
If you want to put down $5, if you feel strongly as Isaac, put down $5. You can get $200 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Maybe it's Mavs Lakers, maybe it's something else. Go check it out. FanDuel.com, the official partner of Super Bowl 59.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Explain yourself. Sorry.
All right, Isaac, let's talk about what's next now for the Mavs. Where do they look now? The trade deadline, like you said, is Thursday. Where do they look? What trade targets are we looking at? They're looking at offensive creators. It's not something you thought about a lot with Luka and Kyrie, at least like higher level ones. Offensive creators, playmakers, and I think they're looking for shooters too.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of different things that, they're trying to build a culture. So who fits the culture? That's the type of thing, like when you start looking across different players too. What does your mind go to first? Are you still thinking wing, or are you just purely looking across the league and saying, Jordan Poole, come on down?
I just look at this team and see there's just going to be a lot of Spencer Dinwiddie, and you got to get somebody that
Spencer's like, this is my time.
I know. Spencer, love you, and I love you every third game, but the Mavs are going to need somebody to offset.
Tim's like, can I come back?
Hardaway, yes. They're going to need somebody to offset some of that. And so one of the first names, the name that's in trade rumors right now, is Lonzo Ball. That's a name that came up recently to me. He's making $21 million. That's almost impossible for the Mavs to get to, unless you put in Klay Thompson in the deal, which I think is now on the table because apparently Luka's on the table too. The whole season we've been saying Klay, they won't trade Klay. He's off the table. But apparently if you can trade Luka, then I think Nico will trade anybody. So I'm not putting him off the table. But if Lonzo's in a buyout, that's something I'm way more interested in than trading for him for $21 million.
Yeah, got a million questions today in the in our Locked On Mavs Insider Q&A about trade stuff, and it's like, what do you think about this? Well, who's this player? I'm like, guys, anything is possible because Luka just got traded.
Yeah.
The only thing I am confident moving past the deadline is AD and Kyrie. Like, I think those two, I think they did, like to have this pairing go for it. I don't know what I mean. I don't think Lively's going to go anywhere, but
I know, but you don't know.
Don't know. Yeah. So I wrote down Lonzo. I wrote one of his teammates down. Love Kobe White.
Kobe White. Yeah.
I think Kobe White would be great in Dallas.
He's making $12 million. That deal is so easy. Would you consider Gafford for him? That's tough now because now with.
I feel like I have a personal connection to both of them. I've always loved Kobe White, and he
went to UNC, and you're a big UNC
guy.
That's love, bro. So love.
I do love Kobe White. Love. I mean, does your opinion change on like Bogdanovich anymore?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it does. Yeah, we talked about Bogdanovich recently. It changes on him. I'm not so into him that I would give up a lot of stuff for him because this season has been so weird for him. But yeah, that's definitely a player that I would think about.
Yeah. Are you cool if I'm just like throwing out names?
Yeah, this is that point of the show where we say, what about this guy?
Okay. Because I think somebody like it wouldn't shock me if Nico and them went out and got it would be DeRozan.
Interesting. I had not considered him.
Yeah. Just where the Kings are shaking things up. They have they got Levine. Shout out to them pairing Levine and DeRozan back together again.
Does that work before?
Yeah, that's a big duo. That's great. I mean, I think I would rather have Malik Monk in that situation if the Kings are still shaking it up. But I could just see something like, hey, we got DeRozan too to help out with scoring, but he is like a little over 20 million, so it'd be hard.
That's a tough one to try and figure out. This is a tough one too, but I kind of got there. Could you see Nico just being like, all right, we're going all in. Let's get Brandon Ingram.
I wrote Ingram's name down. Yeah.
Clay, Gafford, Grimes, Omax. That's the salaries make it work.
So is PJ a 2?
Dude, Ingram is a 2. Ingram played the 1 for the Lakers for a while.
6'10", 6'11".
Yeah. Your team is massive. It's Kyrie and all the bigs. Like Kyrie would look like the kid in that book Where the Wild Things Are, where there's all the monsters in the forest and it's just a little kid. Kyrie would look like that with Brandon Ingram, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, and Lively.
I don't know. I just the Ingram situation just scares me.
I know that's one where I would think that Nico would look at it and say that's not a culture fit because of what he's been doing with the Pelicans, but it's an option. I would throw it out there.
2 bigger contracts that it'd be hard to get to, and it's like, do you really want to go do as Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole? Like, I mean, Poole's the offense, Wiggins is the 2-way defender type of dude. I mean, you could tell the excitement in my voice about this one. Would you try to get RJ Barrett?
That's another one I thought of because as soon as I thought about this, I went to NBA.com and I sorted scoring at least 15 points and at least 5 assists. And he was a name that came up. And I was like, wow, that's definitely an interesting name. I think he's part of the building block for the Raptors, and he's Canadian. So it's kind of been a huge thing for them. I would think about him, but I just don't know what you'd have to give up to get him.
Yeah. But like, who are we kidding? Nico's swinging for something bigger, right? Like,
well, I just named Brandon Ingram. Who's bigger than that? Jimmy Butler?
Kawhi Leonard.
How?
It's called a trade. I do want to shout out somebody real quick. Somebody asked me today. That's like, hey, how could 2 GMs like legally talk about somebody under contract? And I was like, how do you think trades work?
And those tampering rules are so weird because you can't say anything publicly, but you could sit at an Ascension coffee house, which is apparently where Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka were.
Big plug for Ascension.
Yeah, I was gonna say huge for them. I also had Colin Sexton, who I think is a realistic, like a really realistic name for the Mavs. He's averaging 19 points and 4 assists this year for the Jazz.
Yeah, I mean, like, would you rather have him or Dinwiddie? And considering the cost for both,
well, what if you get both?
I don't want to see any Sexton Dinwiddie minutes together.
You don't want to see any what?
The
kids aren't listening anymore, right?
No, they're not. I mean, but for real, like, is Kawhi the target at some point?
That'd be wild.
Okay. I have 3 longer term targets because here's the
longer
thing
term, like 4 years or 10 years when Nico is in the ground, because that's what he said at his press conference.
Who's defining what's long term? Because here's the thing. The draft pick situation, I mean, the Mavs have a ton of draft picks, and let me just slow it out now. I mean, how many draft picks is more valuable right now than that 2031 Mavs pick? That sucker just shot to the top.
How about
of like
Spurs 2030 swap?
How valuable that is. Now they have the Lakers 2029 pick. You just have these multiple first and all this stuff. Do they continue on? I'm not saying this deadline, but is Nico preparing for I'm gonna go get that next, like the next star to pair with an AD, or with both of them, or all of that? And is he monitoring some situations around the league, like a Devin Booker, a John Morant, stuff like that?
He's probably monitoring everything. One of the things that I thought was fascinating in that McMahon piece was talking about how the Jazz didn't know who the players were in the deal until an hour before it went down. They just knew their part of it, that they were going to get some seconds for taking on Jalen Hood-Schifino's contract. And an hour before, Danny Ainge learned that it was Luka and Anthony Davis. And that just makes you realize like what these GMs are doing, where they're talking to one team about a scenario, and then they're talking to another team about a scenario, and then they kind of just push it all together. And so, yeah, I'm sure, I would hope, Mark Stein said on DLLS, he's not done. He's definitely looking for another deal. And Mark Stein said, I would hope that he would have something else that he was going to do this deadline in order to make this team more of a contender. And so I think it's offensive creator and somebody else.
We're just having fun with, some of these long-term big names and all the stuff. But I think realistically, for me right now, I'm looking at that kind of like mid-range, guy. I'm looking at the Kobe Whites, the Bogdanoviches, DeRozan, some guys who can initiate some stuff, that can bring some more offense to the team, that I could see them going out and trying to add. So, yeah.
We'll see what the Mavs look like now, what their targets are next, but that's what we got. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. We'll be doing more shows all the time throughout this. Post-game shows, all kinds of things. See us at Mavs games, all that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom! We did it. We didn't talk about Luka. Proud of us.
One episode.